See, the thing is, the hard thing about being human, the crux of it all.
Tell me.
I'm going to tell you that this is it. Are you listening? Okay. The crux of being human is that every human is a different species. Now we do crossbreed, so to speak, which means every human has many parts that are somewhat similar.
Okay.
Just like squirrels and chipmunks, they're similar, but they're still a different species, right? And deer and elk and moose, they're similar, but they're completely different species, right? Humans, every human, while we're similar, we're all a completely different species, which means every human risks social rejection by somebody, no matter what they do. And so to be human requires being brave enough to discover what we are and to live it without fear, with the recognition that there'll always be someone who's going to reject us or criticize us or scandalize for it. It's just how it's going to be. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be someone who says that's the wrong way to do it.
Right.
Or that's evil, that's wrong, that's the devil's work. We get that a lot as astrologers. Okay. All right, so there's no avoiding that. That's the reality of life.
That's just what's going to happen.
It's just what's going to happen. And not only that, so basically because of that, we become this mixed package of good things, which are things that we know people are going to love and respect about us, and bad things, which are the things we believe people are going to reject us and hate us for and criticize us for. That's ultimately our definition of good and bad that we're working on. Mm-hmm. But see, neither of those is good or bad. Mm-hmm. Those are just based on ideas that people have based on their ideas. Like in ancient Egypt, marrying your sister and having kids was A1. That's the best marriage you could have. I try to do that now. Everyone's going to think I'm weird, and no one's going to want me to live in the neighborhood with my strange kids with birth defects, right? In ancient Egypt, I did that. My kid right away was going to be given better status in society. Who's right? Right? Who's right?
I'd go with the genetics, but...
So the reality is no one's right. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Any more than it matters that some animals can mate with their sisters and have healthy offspring and other animals can't. So it's like we can't use these type of things to decide what's right or wrong as humans.
Right.
But we do constantly. So there's all these little innocent things that are just naturally part of who a person is, that a person desperately feels they'll be hated for, they'll be rejected for. And those things have a purpose in this world. These things have a purpose in their life, for it's their path that they need to walk to grow. And these things have a purpose in the people's lives they connect with. Mm-hmm. Even though a lot of people might be saying, oh, they should be burnt at the stake or whatever. Or even though mama might not approve. And so we're all walking around with tons of stuff that we're scared of being and doing. And so we have to have the self-realization to even discover what those things are. And how do we know they're not there? Because we're frustrated, we're sick, we're tired, we're worn out, we're born out. We're not happy. And that's why we know there's some of those things that are being left behind, that are integral to who we are, to the species that we are. So the same way the chipmunk never eats acorns, he's going to have issues. Mm-hmm. So what is it that we need to eat that we're never eating as our own unique species? And nobody can tell us all that stuff. Yes, they can tell us some of the things because where they share our commonality, but on it only has to be one or two things where no one can tell us. And that's enough to drive us crazy and frustrated and ill and sick. And we have to discover what those things are. And those things are always revolving around our troublesome avastas. Mm. There's something about us that we don't feel will be met with social respect of our peers, of our parents, of our whatever. And as a result, we'd rather be sick, miserable, broke, whatever, than to risk doing those things or living that life. Mm-hmm. And so that's a whole other way we can look at the avastas. Mm. So you see? And until we work through all that stuff, until we have self-realization on those levels and start treating ourselves with respect, how's God going to step in? See, the reality is when God steps in fully, that's when we're really the most individual. Mm-hmm. Why is every saint different, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, what's the point of God showing up inside a person fully if everyone's the same? Mm-hmm. Then he'd only do it once. But he's trying to do it 7 billion times right now.
Right.
And how many even try to let God in? 1 out of 1,000. How many succeed in being okay enough with themselves that God can show up? 1 out of 1,000,000.
Mm-hmm.
And Yogananda used to say that most of what we call a spiritual battle is a psychological battle, which means it's a self-realization that has to do with everything except the direct experience of God. And that direct experience can be a heavy experience or a very simple experience, but some direct seen experience, or by seen I mean experience of God. Everything else is happening on the psychological level. All the mythologies, the Kurukshetra war, the Bhagavad Gita, all that is symbolism of the psychological battle. Mm-hmm. The Devas and the Asuras, the gods and the titans, the gods and the giants of Greek and Norse mythology. These are all just symbolic of the battles that are happening within our own psyche, between our upper chakras of the Devas, 3 upper, and the 3 lower chakras. There's this big battle going on, and that's all happening on a psychological level. And yes, meditating can help, because as we meditate, we start getting those energies lined up in a healthier way. Because one of the things that happens when we have this battle going on, there's a lot of bloodshed. And what I mean by that, imagine a war. You go in there, you destroy the infrastructure, you tear things down, you burn the food supply, you poison the wells, right?
So you thought this out.
Yeah, I'm ready for you. Okay. So, that's what happens in battles. Think of the damage, the sheer damage it causes to the living environment. That inner battle we're having of inner conflicts and struggles has done the same thing to our energy system. So we're walking around with this absolutely caustic battlefield of a deranged energy system within us. Meditating, pranayama, all that stuff starts realigning all that. So then we can see our way through all these psychological things much more clearly and heal those as well. But at the same time, if we take our time and start clearing up that battlefield through learning our avashtas, by psychological therapy, whatever, then the battlefield starts getting cleared up. And then when we do meditate, the energy can flow towards God instead of, all right, I got all this carnage in the way that has to be sorted out. Why can't I meditate deeply? Why does energy always get stuck at my heart, for instance? Well, what's going on with you on an emotional level that the energy can't go higher? Where's the energy stuck from going where you want to have a spiritual experience? So it's just another way to work with something. And astrology, like everything, is not for everyone. Kriya Yoga is not for everyone. There's something for everyone at different times of their life. And astrology is one of those things that for some people at some times in their life, or maybe their whole life, or maybe even just 5 minutes of their life, can help with this process of evolving. So that's why it's useful to people who want to find God.
Perfect. Well, I think we could probably just end there.
If you want to end, we can end.
Is there anything else you wanted to?
I never want to say anything, but you said you might have some other things to ask. If you do, you're welcome to ask.
So how is your Sadie Sati?
Oh, my Sadhi Sati. Oh, yeah. Well, I draw you a picture. It's just basically a black page. It's over. That's all that matters. Here and now, it's over. Other questions?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's it.